Welcome to another Quran study. God willing, today we'll be reading from Surah 7, verse 94. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Blessing in disguise. Whenever we sent a prophet to any community, we afflicted its people with adversity and hardship that they may implore. Then we substituted peace and prosperity in place of that hardship. But alas, they turned heedless and said, "It was our parents who experienced that hardship before prosperity." Consequently, we punished them suddenly when they least expected. So these two verses talk about blessings in disguise, and this is a good example of blessings from God. Like sometimes God will afflict people with adversity, so that they can turn to God, and a lot of people will not turn to God, but some people will, and they pass their test by doing that. Now, we know all bad things are executed by Satan. Nothing bad comes from God. But these are actually blessings, this allows these people to turn back to God. So these are blessings, but they're disguised as hardship, because nothing bad comes from God. However, as we see in the preceding verses, these are the people who fail to take heed. So God will now continue reading. It says, most people make the wrong choice. Verse 96. Had the people of those communities believed and turned righteous, we would have showered them with blessings from the heaven and the earth. Since they decided to disbelieve, we punished them for what they earned. Did the people of the present communities guarantee that our retribution would not come to them in the night as they sleep? Did the people of today's communities guarantee that our retribution will not come to them in the daytime while they play? Have they taken God's plans for granted? None takes God's plans for granted except the losers. Does it ever occur to those who inherit the earth after previous generations that if we will, we can punish them for their sins and seal their hearts, causing them to turn deaf? We narrate to you the history of those communities. Their messengers went to them with clear proofs, but they were not to believe in what they had rejected before. God thus seals the hearts of the disbelievers. We found that most of them disregard their covenant. We found most of them wicked. So God says, if these people believed, it would be better for them, but instead they decided to disbelieve and turn against God, and instead of choosing something that would allow them to be showered by blessings, they decided to uphold conjecture. They decided to uphold guesswork. They decided to insist on following their parents blindly, worshiping idols and following innovative traditions. And we see the same thing happening now in the present generation, right? The present communities that is being talked about, look all around us, and we can see, the world is infested with idol worshippers everywhere, and all of them are upholding some sort of idols in their lives. People are either atheists or idol worshippers, disbelievers, hypocrites, and very few people are dedicated to God alone. And so God says, what is it that they think that will stop God from punishing these people now? When we talked about the smoke prophecy, right? And when it became like an imminent thing that is going to happen soon, because, well, first there was a year associated with it, right? Um, there wasn't a year associated with it, right? But now um, we found signs that it's gonna happen on a certain date, and we found people getting really upset. Why? Because it makes it a reality, something that is going to happen, right? Which is one of the biggest reasons why somebody will will object to it. Same as the year about the end of the world. That the messenger of the covenant told us from the Quran that it will end in 280 AD. But God says, did these people guarantee that this will not happen to them during the day or during the night? And if God wants, He can just seal their hearts. And so God teaches us about these communities, in the past communities. Why? So that we don't end up like those communities. And we can see what God did to those communities. Of course, there was the people who made the wrong choice. If the people wanted for themselves, they could have turned righteous and followed the message. But their egos caused them to turn arrogant and to rebel against God. And so we continue to read about these communities. One of them is about the people of Moses, the community of Moses. Verse 103 says, after those messengers, we sent Moses with our signs to Pharaoh and his people, but they transgressed. Note the consequences for the wicked. Moses said, O Pharaoh, I'm a messenger from the Lord of the universe. It is incumbent upon me that I do not say about God except the truth. I come to you with a sign from your Lord. Let the children of Israel go. He said, if you have a sign, then produce it if you're truthful. He threw down his staff, and it turned into a tremendous serpent. He took out his hand, and it was white to the beholders. The leaders among Pharaoh's people said, this is no more than a clever magician. He wants to take you out of your land. What do you recommend? They said, respite him and his brother, and send summoners to every city. Let them summon every experienced magician. So we see that God sent Moses as a messenger to the children of Israel, and but these people they were transgressors, and we see what God did to those transgressors. The history is evident and clear on what God did to those communities. And Moses, when he came as a messenger, what did he say to Pharaoh? He said, it is incumbent upon me that I do not say about God except the truth. So messengers do not say anything other than the truth about God. Of course, the messenger of the covenant will say, if it's not in the Quran, don't accept it. But doesn't mean he's going to tell you to do un-Quranic things and say, follow this from God. The messengers will not do that. And same with the messenger of the covenant, and same with Moses. Moses said the same thing. It's incumbent upon me that I do not say about God except the truth. I come to you with a sign from your Lord. And when he threw down his staff, it turned into a serpent. When he took out his hand, it was white without a blemish. And what was Pharaoh's reaction? He was so blinded, that he's seeing miracles unfold from God in front of his eyes. And he says that he is just a clever magician. He doesn't understand the difference between a magician and a miracle from God, Magic and a miracle from God. And you can see what kind of magic those people were able to perform at that time, Just a bunch of tricks. So it says, they said, respite him and his brother, and send summoners to every city. And they thought that, I mean, they told people that they wanted to take them out of their land, take them out of their land, meaning the children of Israel. He told the children of Israel that Moses wants to take you out of your land, right? Which was not their land. They were just basically slaves. It wasn't their land, first of all, and they were just used there as badly. And Pharaoh, being a liar, how he frames the situation, saying he wants to destroy your ideal way of life, and that's how big of a liar he was, and this is what they decided to do. So it says, the magicians came, verse 113. The magicians came to Pharaoh and said, "Do we get paid if we are the winners?" He said, "Yes, indeed. You will even become close to me." They said, "O Moses, either you throw or we are throwing." He said, "You throw." When they threw, they tricked the people's eyes, intimidated them, and produced a great magic. We then inspired Moses, "Throw down your staff," whereupon it swallowed whatever they fabricated. The truth recognized by the experts. Thus the truth prevailed, and what they did was nullified. They were defeated then and there. The magicians fell prostrate. They said, we believe in the Lord of the universe, the Lord of Moses and Aaron." So we can see how Pharaoh's scheming backfired against him. He brought in all those magicians, and he told them that these people are going to be close to them, and he'll reward them and this and that, which are all lies. But he told them all these things, and then thinking that these people will turn against Moses. But instead, Moses, if Pharaoh wanted, he could have allowed Moses to be killed at that time by Pharaoh, before it got to even the point where the magicians saw his magic, But God's plan was to protect Moses. So instead of just getting rid of Moses at that time, he thought that he had a better scheming, that he was going to humiliate Moses in front of all these people and then turn everyone against him. Instead, it backfired, and they turned against Pharaoh and became submitters and joined Moses. And these people were experts in magic because they knew how to perform magic, and they were just basically tricking people, just with their eyes, like how you see people, doing all those silly matchstick type, magic, taking a bunny out of a hat or whatever, that tricks your eye. I mean, there's nothing else to it, right? And poor, magicians. I mean, they realized that at that time. I mean, not poor, but they realized at that time that this is far superior than any trick. This is impossible. I mean, how can a staff turn into a big snake that's swallowing all of these things that these people are putting down? And so they had to submit. They accepted it, but Pharaoh was so arrogant that he couldn't even submit at that time. Like, his ego wouldn't allow him, being humiliated at that time in front of everyone. But this was Pharaoh's response, seeing that all these people are submitting. I mean, he could also submit, but instead he decided to turn against them. Pharaoh said, "Did you believe in him without my permission? This must be a conspiracy you schemed in the city in order to take its people away. You will surely find out. I will cut your hands and feet on alternate sides, and then I will crucify you all." So Pharaoh was a real tyrant, and you know how what a tyrant looks like, when he doesn't get his way, he tries to control people by threatening them with punishment. And that's what Pharaoh did. He said, "You believed in him without my permission? Like, you decided to choose your belief without asking me, like I'm your God, and you don't ask my permission to believe in God?" I mean, how crazy is that, right? I mean, you think about it. Like, you have to have the leader's permission to believe in God. I mean, that's how enslaved they were. Like, they couldn't even pick their own belief, right? Which is the case now in many places around the world, where people cannot say that they believe in God alone without being subjected to some sort of punishment. And it was one of the worst ones, because he said he will cut their hands and feet on alternate sides. So like having a left hand but not having the right leg. Not having the right leg and not having the left hand, right? So it's like, I don't understand. I guess it makes life more difficult if they're cut on alternate sides, right? But either way, even if they were cut on the same side, I guess it will not make it any better. But of course, it's horrible. And but at that time, you can see the level of faith that the children of Israel exhibited. Of course, they didn't have that same level of faith later on in their life, as we can see. But at that point, they all stood up against Pharaoh, which requires courage and strong belief in God and trust in God, that they would speak up to that tyrant, because they knew that God was there with Moses, helping them and supporting them, because they had seen the truth. Their hearts were strengthened by God. That they said that it says, we will, verse 125 says, they said, "We will then return to our Lord. You persecute us simply because we believed in the proofs of our Lord when they came to us. Our Lord, grant us steadfastness and let us die as submitters." The leaders among Pharaoh's people said, "Will you allow Moses and his people to corrupt the earth and forsake you and your gods?" He said, "We will kill their sons and spare their daughters. We are much too powerful than they are." Moses said to his people, "Seek God's help and steadfastly persevere. The earth belongs to God, and he grants it to whomever he chooses from among his servants. The ultimate victory belongs to God, belongs to the righteous." They said, "We were persecuted before you came to us and after you came to us." He said, "Your Lord will annihilate your enemy and establish you on earth, then he will see how you behave." And so we see that these people decided at that time that they were going to stand up with God, and they said that they will return to God anyways, and acknowledge that they were being punished and persecuted only because they believe in God alone, right? But their hearts were strengthened, as I said, and they prayed to God to grant them steadfastness and to let them die as sinners. And so the leaders among Pharaoh's people said, "Will you allow Moses and his people to corrupt the earth and forsake you and your gods?" And what kind of wicked scheming did they come up with? They said, "We will kill their sons and spare their daughters." I mean, why would you do that? Kill the sons and spare the daughters. I mean, if you create that sort of an imbalance, I guess it would make them much weaker and more vulnerable. And it's purely evil. But and these people complained to Moses, thinking that they were persecuted before, and now they're just going to be persecuted even further, right? They're going to be persecuted even further. But Moses said, seek help and steadfastly persevere. Right? So it's very important for us to seek help and steadfastly persevere, because this is something that is a trait of a believer, and we're supposed to do that, in order to get help from any kind of help from God. And that's exactly what they suggested. And then Moses told these people that after that, obviously, after this period of hardship is over, this period of affliction and persecution is over, God will substitute peace and prosperity to see how you behave, right? And we can see how that turned out for these people. As long as these people were persecuted and in that terrible position, they were imploring God, and then the moment they were freed, they resorted back to idol worship. The plagues, verse 130. We then afflicted Pharaoh's people with drought and shortage of crops, that they may take heed. When good omens came their way, they said, we have deserved this. But when a hardship afflicted them, they blamed Moses and those with him. In fact, their omens are decided only by God, but most of them do not know. They said, no matter what kind of sign you show us, to dupe us with your magic, we will not believe. The warnings go unheeded. Consequently, we sent upon them the flood, the locusts, the lice, the frogs, and the blood. Profound signs, but they maintained their arrogance. They were evil people. So these verses talk about the plagues that we know about, that the people of Moses, at the time of Pharaoh, like they witnessed, and that includes, the frogs, the locusts, the lice, the blood, and all these warnings were not heeded by Pharaoh and his people, obviously, because eventually Pharaoh submitted. We know that, right? But before that, but it was too late. Of course, like these warnings when they were being given, like if he wanted to really submit, like this was enough for him to take heed, at least at that time. But he decided not to. He insisted. And so when it says when good omens came their way, they said we deserve this. When bad things happened, they blamed Moses. And God tells us here that, say, your omens are decided only by God. Like how people will blame other people for their bad outcomes. And God says we can't do that, because we are responsible for what we do. Anything bad that happens to us, it's because of us. And the fact that these people were not submitting to God, these things were happening. It wasn't Moses' fault. And then they also said, no matter what kind of sign you show us to dupe us with your magic, we will not believe. So their minds were completely made up. And at this point, like, they were people that, were destined to be doomed. However, as after that point, like, still God sent the flood, and then the locusts, then the lice, and the frogs, and the blood, to give these people some sort of an opportunity to reflect. But they decided to disbelieve, right? So yeah, not much to explain with these verses, I guess, because it's very straightforward verses, and explaining the history of the people of Pharaoh. So God willing, I'll stop here. If you guys have any comments or questions, please feel free. Thank you.
MashaAllah, thank you, brother.
MashaAllah, thank you.
MashaAllah, brother. Thanks.
So, Brother Suleman, there is a little like noise in the back, kind of like air conditioning a little bit.
So, anyone has any comments or questions regarding the verses that we read?
Yeah, so the stuff they were practicing, the magicians, it was magic, because that's what the Quran says. And there's a distinction, right, between
Mm-hmm.
witchcraft and magic. Like you would think, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just regular magic, right? Like it wasn't witchcraft, like that's mentioned in
Mm-hmm.
like the stuff that the people use to scheme and
Yeah.
break up marriages. It
Yeah.
was because, like, I think about that video you sent the other day, like showing
Yeah.
that guy. Man, that was
Yeah.
crazy, and like, it was pretty
Yeah.
scary because I looked more into it, and that's everybody kind of said the same thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it
So
wasn't anything like that. Like, I was
yeah.
just
So
wondering.
I think this was before they even had witchcraft. Because like it talks about the time of Solomon and how the
Yes,
angels came
but
and
Solomon was before Moses, though.
wait a minute.
Yeah, it was before Moses. But I mean, I guess it's not a big deal. I was just curious because, like, it said they produced like something profound that tricked the people and was like
Yes.
very,
No,
very deceiving.
Solomon was a Jewish prophet, right?
Yeah, yeah, he came like quite a bit of time before Moses.
No, Solomon was not before Moses.
Um,
So Moses,
oh, yeah, yeah, you're right, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I was getting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right.
Yeah. So Moses lived much earlier, right? And then Solomon was the son of the king of David, who was the
Right,
third king of Israel.
right. Yeah, because you talked about them losing or them to his
Yeah.
people not
And so
following
that's
the
when,
Ten Commandments.
yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly. So that's when after that, people got that knowledge
Oh man, that
around
makes
that time.
sense. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that clears that up. Mashallah. Thank you for
Yeah.
the clarification. Yeah, I don't know why I thought it was before Moses. I don't know. I was getting
Yeah. I mean,
confused.
that's why, all the Jews, all
Right.
the Jewish people, they're crazy about Solomon. Like they think that, he's their prophet and,
Mhm.
yeah. And David also, how they're obsessed with the Star of David. And
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, they even like today, like there's books, like books of Kuwait and stuff there from Solomon, or supposedly that they're still trying
Hmm.
to trying to
Hmm.
read. But yeah, I got confused because I remember watching or reading about it too, but like he was telling the children, or I guess the descendants, like how they were not following the law of Moses, how they had abandoned it or something had become like
Hmm.
even before Jesus. I think maybe that's what I was confusing it with.
Hmm. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, so it wasn't even a thing then. It wasn't. It
Yeah.
didn't even come into existence.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it
They
was
didn't have the
just
knowledge at that
magic.
time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, when the Quran talks about magic versus witchcraft, they're two separate things, right?
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I have a question about the verses 7, 120, and 21. So the magician fell. The magicians fell prostrate. They said, "We believe in the Lord of the universe." So here the magician became submitter, and so but like finally the Moses has only two submitters, I think, like in some point. So
Mhm.
where these magicians gone, so they left the submission or they were prosecuted. That's my
They
curiosity.
were,
Yes.
yeah, they were the ones that God says, they were aimlessly. They said, you and your Lord fight. We are sitting right here, and then God said that, they would, roam the earth aimlessly for 40 years.
Mm,
So these people were not like quote unquote believers. They said that they submit with Moses, but then after after that, when they were tested, like they were already kind of falling off the path when they were going, and they said,
mm,
make a god for us and stuff like that. So these were people that were not righteous. So
mm,
yeah, so like, it was like kind of like the devil pursued them and got them to join him basically.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also my understanding. But I was thinking maybe in some point
Mhm.
some of them prosecuted.
Mhm.
So some that's.
Yeah, I mean, like like for example, see for example, people that accepted the message and were on the forefront of submission at the time of the messenger of the covenant. Where are they now? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same kind of thing. Like they joined Satan.
Yeah, same history. History
Mhm.
repeated
Yeah,
itself. Yeah, this truth. Thank you.
I'm sure you're welcome.
Yeah, mashallah. I guess we could say maybe they were like bad weather friends, because they were believing when they were really needed the help to be rescued. But when things got easy for them and they had like all their gold and stuff, they ended up turning into disbelievers. And then
Right.
even after that,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it just reminds me of the movie Ten Commandments. The original one. There's so many
yeah,
of
the 1957.
them.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, mashallah, that was a good one. Yeah, and we can see how evil the schemes of Pharaoh and his leaders were, about killing killing their
Right.
sons and then sparing their daughters, and then
Hmm.
boasting about their power. That's like was wicked, you know. But they were still the losers, mashallah.
They wanted to keep the women around, so I guess they could abuse them, even young daughters and stuff. but
Yeah, like it reminds me of the
bigger than
verse,
man
like
is
when
maybe.
it says, "Indeed, Pharaoh." Huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, like I was just gonna say, when I see that, it reminds me of the verse, like it says, "Indeed, Pharaoh's schemes were truly evil." I mean, that type of
Mm,
behavior is like the lowest of the
right.
low,
Mm,
because I mean, that's people's families and stuff, and then
yeah.
you're keeping them alive as slaves.
You kill babies, you kill them.
Yeah, yeah, kill babies, right?
Inshallah. These verses shows us too how God is running everything, like the verses where that we just read that like you had this side Moses giving them the message and you got the side of Pharaoh um, full of ego and denying what was coming to them. And you see how Pharaoh, like in his side, they had more power. They had like weapons, they had soldiers, they had all these things. And like if people um, would see it in a way of just like, oh, who has weapons and or who has more people, they will be like they would think like today you see a bigger army, you say, oh, this big army will defeat this army, but mashallah, as submitters, we know that God is running everything, and this is a good example of that because we see that they had the upper hand in such things, like soldiers and all these other stuff like army things. But we know if it's God's will, for something, um, you know, that's what's gonna happen. It doesn't like matter what you
Mm,
have. It doesn't matter
right.
um what things you have. If God, it we know that everything is according to God's will, and like what ended up like happening, like they couldn't do anything. Like the sea ended up opening up, and no type of army or anything will be able. They couldn't do anything. And
Mm,
they ended up drowning, but like he was so like, but he thought, because he like you just said, like if he wanted to, like you said in earlier in the study, he could have like I always think about this too, like he could have killed him there, but
mm,
his ego and stuff, it wanted him, like he wanted to be right, like he says,
mm,
like he was probably thinking like no, like he was such a wicked person, disbeliever, that he actually believed his side,
mm,
like, and there was like
yeah.
nothing that was gonna be able to change it.
Mm,
And but just mashallah, God says in Quran how the schemes they backfire on themselves. God says that they only scheme on themselves, and that's exactly what happened to Pharaoh.
yeah.
Mashallah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, sometimes people forget about the power of God. I mean, God has so many angels that even the angels don't know their names, right? And and one angel alone can just hold the earth with one hand, for example. So what is it that God can't do? So if someone has God's support, I mean, you can have all the pharaohs in the world, like millions of pharaohs, and they can't do anything against one believer, right? So that's amazing. I mean, and that kind of trust. I mean, God is teaching us that it's not limited to just Moses and his followers. Like anyone could get protection from God if they turn to God. I mean, they were all human beings just like us, and God protected them. And it's the same for every believer. If you put your trust in God and you truly turn to Him, He will protect you in every situation. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing to me, like how God controls um, everything. I mean, how God controls our circumstances. Um, and I'm smiling because I recently had this experience where, like, I was coming into the United States recently. I was traveling, And it was really crazy because I mean, I had posted a whole bunch of things on my social media posts, and I kept on posting like nonstop for the past couple of months, and I was getting a little bit nervous, I guess, not too much, but I was a little bit nervous, you know, and hearing all these things that were going on with all the people being detained and sent to unknown countries and stuff. I mean, it is a daunting, like, it is kind of a you know, scary thing if you start thinking about it and worrying about it, you know. And but somehow, like, I had this comfort in my heart, like that God will protect me, and if I put my trust in Him, like nothing bad will happen, you know. And then coming in, like I had a very short connecting flight, like, and the customs, like at LAX, is like one of the busiest airports in the world, the worst, I mean, one of the most busiest in the U.S. And so, like, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna, you know, pass through customs and all. Like, I had like an hour and a half to do everything, and I was like, and I had my bags to check out and check in. I was like, I'm probably gonna miss my flight and everything. And then, mashallah, I mean, everything worked out. Like, I looked at the lines first. I looked at the lines. I was like, and they put there was a very long line, and then there was a very short line. You know, and the long lines were the ones that they had for you know, non-citizens, and then the shorter lines were for citizens. And I was like, you know, normally you get the people who have the green card, they get put in the shorter lines with the citizens, and now they changed it to put them in the longer lines, and they were very long, you know. And as soon as I said that, I was writing to my wife, and as soon as I sent that message, all of a sudden, you know, one of the security people came and they said, "No, you guys should go in that line. Just join the other line." And then I went from the very end to the very long line, you know, just went into the shorter line, and mashallah, it was so quick, alhamdulillah. Like one of the shortest, you know, ever, you know, time that I had to pass through with security. One of the quickest, shortest lines. Didn't ask me anything, you know, and mashallah, everything worked out. I was able to make my flight and everything just very smoothly, you know. And just an example, like, not to brag about myself, you know, anyways, but uh, to me that just is a sign, like it shows that, you know, if you put your trust in God, like no matter what your situation is, God will help you, you know.
Mashallah, brother. But it's important too, you know, to like we know like everyone goes through such things, but not everyone right away reverence God, you know. It's just why it's so important, like um to those like when some such things happen, like to think about God and know that God is the one that did it, you know, and be
Mm,
thankful to God, you know.
right.
Mashallah.
MashaAllah.
Anyone else has any comments or questions? um Brother Nazim, do you have any comments?
Brother, I don't have any comments here now, but
What is
I,
the latest about the community?
I latest I have to I have a question
Mhm.
about the other
Okay,
surah and
off topic.
verses.
Okay, off topic. So yeah, let's see if there's any more comments about the verses we read, and then God willing, we can
Okay.
talk about
Yes.
off topic questions as well. All right. Anyone else has any comments or questions? I mean, there's, mashallah, this story, like we read all the time, these stories, but these examples that God has put, like, there's many lessons. Like thinking about like the kind of statements like Pharaoh's making, the kind of reaction that the people had, and how things moved as a consequence. Like, all of these things, like, mashallah, God has selected these things. Like, there's many lessons for us in these stories from the past.
Yeah, mashallah. I was thinking about when you're reading the part uh, when Moses was telling his people, to seek steadfast, seek help from God and steadfastly persevere.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good lesson for all of us, because and that goes
Mm-hmm.
in every situation where we need help, and even
Mm-hmm.
if we need help making like running a red light or something, if we're in a tight situation, or or making it to our destination, or for big and small matters,
Mm-hmm.
because it also helps at the same time making God our God. So, for those several minutes or dozens of minutes or an hour in and out, or just throughout the days or weeks, we're all doing this. It adds to us remembering God, the zikr, growing our soul. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it also reinforces like the fact that God is doing everything, because going to Him alone for help, the part of the contact prayer. uh, we remind ourselves and we reinforce it that He's the only one who can help us. You know, like even Moses, the people maybe I think there's a part did they turn to Moses or something, and then he was I think when they're about to cross the sea, and he says no.
Mm-hmm.
He said,
My
I
Lord
forget.
is with me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then he said, exactly. Because they were getting very nervous, like the Pharaoh's people were right
Mm-hmm.
there coming after them with their
Mm-hmm.
big armies.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, my Lord is with me. My Lord will guide me. So we have to, uh, because if we're doing that, it helps us too, reminds us only God can help us, not,
Mm-hmm.
not this person, not even Moses, not Jesus, of course, we know that, or Muhammad, or our boss, or anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, if we look at it like condition ourselves continually to, like He's controlling these people, right? He's controlling their heartbeat and their cells and all of that, their nerves. So yeah, He's doing everything.
MashaAllah.
Yeah, mashallah. I think, like you said, brother, the people's response to, and Pharaoh's responses, um, we can learn from these things, because we know, how much, like in Surah 20 and other surahs, how it talks about Pharaoh and Moses and the people, children of Israel.
So, yeah, I mean, also we learned that, God grants victory to the messengers. He grants victory to the believers who release their problems. I mean, look at these people that they were slaves, for Pharaoh, who made them work so hard, and gave them nothing, and they had no life of their own. And then, God brought them out of that situation, by miracles, like literally direct miracles, and gave them, so many blessings like manna and quails, and God's provisions, like free land and everything. And but these people decided to become unappreciative and decided to turn arrogant and decided to turn away from God. But if they didn't, if they continue to stay on the path of God, I mean, all these blessings, would have continued for these people, from this example that we see, but these people had miserable lives, I'm assuming, towards the end as well, just as any other person, because, they set the worst examples, and people continue to follow those examples. But I mean, that's just the same I see with the people of Pharaoh. I mean, the followers of Moses is the same thing that we see people doing now. I mean, when I first read about the people of Moses, I was thinking to myself, like, what kind of people are these? Like, they're so unappreciative. Like, they're seeing all these miracles and things happening, and they're still reverting to such poor behavior, that doesn't befit a believer. I mean, a submitter, let alone like a believer. And they're doing, and they set these bad examples. But then when I see these similar things in front of me, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like now, I understand. Like watching people in front of my eyes, saying they're submitters, following the messenger, and just behaving so poorly, and then just seeing that their lives, just are the same as like any other person, right? But if people believe and they turn righteous, like God makes them victorious in this world. Like they won't be like the richest people on the planet, but of course they will have everything they need. They will have, they will not have miserable lives, being surrounded by all kinds of problems. God will fix their problems. God will make sure that these people are not oppressed, that these people are free. No matter what the situation is, like the messenger says, even if you have like a like every, like, let's say whatever happened, like I forgot the example he gave, but like imagine like an earthquake or something, a bomb exploded, and everybody's miserable, and you'll be there like happy, smiling, like untouched, for example, right?
I think he said like if an earthquake, yeah, hit Tucson.
Earthquake, yeah, I think he said earthquake, yeah, too. I was
Yeah.
thinking about earthquake, but then I was thinking about like, doesn't that I don't want to draw the correlation with the earthquake and you not being spared in the earthquake. Of course, if
Right.
you deserve to be hit by the earthquake, then you would be hit by the earthquake, right?
Mhm.
But like, yeah, I mean, you'd be in a miserable. I mean, everybody else would be miserable, but you wouldn't be.
That's right.
I kind of reminds me of one situation I was in where like people thought that I'll be miserable, and I was very happy. And someone said, they actually told other people. They said this person's a psychopath because they said
Yeah.
he's having
I
so, look at it, his life
Yeah.
is falling apart, and he's sitting in the study smiling.
I remember that you telling me.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a good. that's,
yeah.
that's
Yeah. And the other person was like, "Well, how do you know he's a psychopath? You don't have his clinical diagnosis."
yeah.
But that person still started believing. Since then, he started believing I was a psychopath too. I think. Anyways, okay, that's, yeah, mashallah. But yeah, that should be the outcome. Like if we are with God, then we should not be troubled by things. And I've seen other, mashallah, other good examples. Like I don't want to name names, but like I've seen good examples of people where you seemingly think that because of what's happening around them, or seemingly to them, even that you think that they'll be in a miserable situation, while they're just being tested. But you see that they're submitting people and content with their lives, mashallah.
Mashallah. But, I wanted to comment too, like when you were talking about like we've talked about this before too, how you were reading Quran, like the miracles, like the splitting of the sea, all these miracles, like great miracles that um Moses showed to his community. you know, we like, and we read like, and how these people still like after they just like they lost all of their belief and all of their faith, you know, they just and you we think, you know, like we read these things and we're like you were just explaining, you know, we're like how like can somebody even do that, you know? But you see it happen even like now people call themselves so-called submitters, you know, they have all these miracles, you know, so many miracles with the miracle, like on top of the miracle of 19. The miracle of
Mm-hmm.
19 shows so many other miracles, so mashallah, and of course we know that it confirms all the previous miracles, but then it has miracles on itself, you know, with the number 19, and so many so much proofs and signs, and like you would still see a group of people or as an individual follow something like circumcision, you know, and make something like make up all these things just to prove that point. Like that's not different at all, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because that has nothing to do with the miracle of 19. You cannot tie that in no way with the miracle of 19, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's no connection with 19, you know. And so we see that happen again, you know, and like we see it happen even now. So you know, we understand as submitters. I mean, there's um, verses in Quran that tells us like someone could believe, someone could have faith, and someone could lose that, you know. So we have to always um, run. We have to run to God and never leave our guard down, you know, and repent and always like um, um, run to that source, you know, God alone, and like trust in God no matter what we go through, and ask God to help us with these tests and stuff, and like all these things that will help us, you know, with our path. Mashallah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, very important. To be steadfast and to persevere because a lot of people will get into submission and stay on the path for a while, but of course, because they're not steadfast, they'll fall off the path. Either become complacent or think that they're on the right path and get misled in some other direction, right? But if they stayed on that path straight all the way, that's what God wants for us. It's not, of course, it's not easy either for the way the world is set up for us. I mean, you have to really work hard.
Mashallah.
Yeah, also about the earlier discussion we're having about Moses and Solomon, we also have the Psalms of David, right? I mean, in the Old Testament, and the songs of Solomon and all that stuff. Yeah, I just forgot to mention that part.
I think brother Nizamo, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but
Nizam? Nizam.
Nizam, he
Mm-hmm.
had he wrote a text. He had a question.
Uh-huh. Do you want to read it?
No, he just
Oh, he
he
says, I have
like
a question about
uh-huh.
verse 566 and 58. Mm-hmm. What's the question? But that's off topic, right?
Yeah.
What's the
So
question?
Oh,
we can later. I just just type, but then you
Mm-hmm.
can
Right,
read.
right.
That's why. Yeah.
Brother Rafa is very excited to answer your question. That's why.
no, brother. It's just
But
sometimes we
Rafa,
miss those
I
texts.
want you to answer his question now.
Yeah.
All right. So
I
I guess,
gotta
I
send
mean,
him at
is
this
there
church.
any comments or questions from you about the verses we read? Brother Jaffer, welcome.
But I came late, so I'm starting to read the verses.
So, okay,
I'll
good.
ask inshallah if I have questions.
Okay. Yes.
Salam alaikum, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that when you first when I first read about Pharaoh and looking at his traits and I mean I guess you can probably see a lot of people with these traits in the world, like when it comes to like someone who's a ruler, but I guess they're from different time and culture that it's hard to like relate, but then when I see the you know I don't know what to say. Well, like when I see the current regime here and I look at the personality traits, like I can understand that arrogance that comes with it, like that how repulsive and egotistical a person can be. Like, we don't see that kind of arrogance and egotistical personality like all out there as much, but we have a chance to see that. I think that's kind of like when I think about Pharaoh, that kind of reminds me of the kind of personalities with these rulers. Maybe they were probably more dignified. I don't know, but who knows? But I mean that shows the sort of behavior that these rulers with their worldly seemingly worldly powers that they think they have, that makes them think that they are invincible, thinking that they have the power to do this and the power to do that, like literally making statements like, I have the power to stop wars, I have the power to do this, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, like all
Yeah,
these
man,
things, like
go to heaven.
unbelievable. Yeah, and yeah, of course he decides where he wants to go.
His heaven isn't what he's probably like expecting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
He
brought up an
probably
interesting.
wants to. He probably wants to go to the one, or the ones that traditional Muslims want to go to.
Right. Yeah, you brought up an interesting point, because like when I think of like the Pharaoh, like like you said, there's leaders and stuff like the then Braveheart, the real story of like between Scotland and England, that Edward Longshanks. I think he was Edward the First. He was just like he had the same exact schemes as Pharaoh, but like it kind of like you said, he was a lot more. I mean, even in the movie and in history, he's not like as repulsive, I guess, like
Mm-hmm.
without these things. He's a lot more dignified in a way, but I mean, he's very evil.
Mm-hmm.
and he was doing the same things. I mean, like even during colonial times, like in America, the British, like me and Raphael, we had watched a movie, and then there was Last of the Mohicans. Like these things that happen is very very similar, but like these people, I guess they don't speak with this level of arrogance a lot of the time, you know, and say like I'm your God and stuff. Basically, which he has said before, you know, the person in the current regime, like with among the Christians, you know, he basically verbatim, literally, seen him a
Right.
few.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty.
And so
Yeah,
he said, "I run the world."
yeah,
Yeah, you see like similar traits, right? Uh, like he, like, also like he thinks um, like he has like these people like they think they can decide who to kill, you know, and God says that God has made life sacred, you know, and such people, they think this way, you know, and if you really think about it, it's like very evil and dark, you know.
hmm Yeah, I mean, the thought of killing a single person, I mean, and imagine, here you are responsible for killing hundreds and thousands and even millions of people.
Mhm.
yeah. They did have some like some Roman emperors, the only ones I could think, like Nero and Caligula, who would like do pretty much the same thing as we're seeing in the news, like with all the uh, you know um, with the wickedness and these files and stuff. You know, I don't want to, I guess, taint our Quran study with even mentioning that individual's name. But yeah, the only
hmm
the Romans and stuff like Caligula and Nero were like a lot like that. Uh, but yeah, the people like
hmm
them only come once, I think, every like several hundred years, like to
hmm
that degree. But, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the
basically,
thing
we're a
is,
modern day Pharaoh.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, the world is, full of people like that. But the thing is, they never get to such a position where they can just, you know, they're where they're given enough rope to do all this, like there could be someone like Pharaoh, but then he may just become like a criminal, or a bank robber or something, based on his resources or his I don't know, whatever God has the path for him. But I mean, there's people many people would could have that kind of arrogance. I'm saying, you know, but then every now and then you'll have someone like that who will, get a position like that, and then obviously, cause all kinds of chaos around them. But we know the
Okay.
main main king of chaos is Satan, right? He's the one behind all of this, um, and
Yeah, that brings
all
me
of
to,
these.
I guess, maybe it's not off topic because I guess, or maybe it is because
Mhm.
it kind of relates to
It,
like Satan providing happiness for his constituents.
you
But
related
like,
to South Park?
huh?
You related to South Park?
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. Because Satan is in there too.
yeah. Like I think I've asked it before, and there was you had a really good answer. And people
hmm
at it was answered, but I guess maybe from time to time, I don't. It was like I think it was like 2 years ago or a year and a half ago.
hmm
But so like if Satan is trying to provide for his constituents, right? Like he has to provide for these evil people, and try to provide happiness or a perfect kingdom, but also provide for his constituents and the people that are being oppressed by these very evil people. Like how is he also like wanting to do this, but also his intention is on leading people astray? Is it under the context of like I'm leading you astray, like follow me, and then I can provide you happiness or something? And then when he gets, because you know how he tells his the people, I think it's in Surah 4, yeah, it's in Surah 14, how he says, I had no power over you. You chose to follow me. I can't help you now, and you can't help me now. Like my complaining
hmm
can't help you, and like you believed, I've
Right.
disbelieved. You believing in me. So how do you
hmm
understand
Yeah,
like this?
Yeah,
That's
mashallah, that's a very good question. Very good question.
Mashallah.
I think I want to answer, but I want to know if there's anyone else who wants to answer too. But no.
No, but
Okay, so
I will answer after my
okay,
opinion
okay,
after you.
okay, sure. You can say now if you want.
I'm not sure. Like maybe I'm not gonna. I think you will answer better, brother. So I just want to do it after, inshallah.
No, I just want to hear your thoughts. Anyways, I mean,
Okay. It was
no,
just I was just thinking. Okay, mashallah. I was just thinking about like it's I didn't understand like so clear the question, but just what I came to my head is like Satan is like he's trying to like he is here because he's being tested as a god, right? So he wants to give his constituents like a good like happiness, no headaches and all these things, but he cannot because he cannot be a god, you know. So he will do everything he can to try to do that, but it's just not gonna happen because he can't do it, you know. So and you see like you have these bars, you have all these like drugs and these party things and stuff like that, and you know like these things that belong to Satan, they just make you miserable, you know. And
mm,
maybe he's like he has all these things to try to make these people like he tries to make them happy and all this stuff, but it's just it backfires on him. It never works, you know,
mm,
because he
mm.
just can't do it, you know.
Yeah. So, mashallah, yeah, exactly. So,
Mm.
John, if I understood the part that you're asking about, well, you're saying like, in other words, if Satan is if Satan's really trying to make people happy,
hmm
then why is he
yeah,
telling
yeah,
people to go the wrong way?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
he
Why is he
knows
like purposely misleading people,
people,
deceiving,
right, right.
betraying, scheming,
Mm-hmm.
whispering, all these horrible things?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Because yeah, so because the thing is that he wants to make people happy, but he wants to make people happy on his terms, like on his rules, right? Now, for example, if God said worship me alone and Satan said worship God alone, too, then Satan is not uh, wanting to be a god. Satan's telling you to worship God, but Satan has to be a god, and he has to have his constituents. So God is going to tell you one thing means Satan's going to tell you to do the opposite. It's like you have two
makes sense.
kings. One king is telling you to go left, the other is telling you to go right. If the other king is also telling you to go left, then he's just following. You're just following the first one, right? So the way the whole thing is set up is that he has to have his own set of rules. He has to have his own path that people will go, which is the wrong way, which is the drugs, which is adultery, all of this lying, cheating, all of that stuff, right? So,
Much
but he's with but he can't, for example, give someone peace in their mind or grow their soul or even provide contentment to them, right? He can't do any of that. But what he can do is just give them temporary pleasure. I mean, these are his limited abilities. So he can just do that, but obviously he can't fix everything in their life. I mean, he can try to give them these things, but like he can't stop them from getting into an accident or whatever because he's not all present, everywhere, omnipotent.
right. So, like at the same time, he's trying to provide for Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's happy, but secretly we know he's probably miserable, and leaders and Pharaoh's people. But at the same time, it causes a disaster for the children of Israel because now they have slave labor and oppression. But that in turn makes Pharaoh happy. I guess it's like
So,
it's a doomed system is what he like his laws and the way he's
mm,
trying to
of
implement it
course.
basically.
But the
Like
thing is, like, Satan cannot provide, like, for example, give people wealth. Like like the thing is, God is the one who makes you rich, right? God says He's the one who makes you rich or poor. So Satan cannot do anything. I mean, whatever amount of money that you're gonna get in this world that you're destined to get as your share, you're gonna get that from God. Now, how you're gonna get it? You're gonna follow God's path. You're gonna follow Satan's path. That's different. But Satan cannot, for example, Satan does not have the power to make a person, have more provisions. Provisions are only controlled by God.
Yeah, all our dollars are signed by God,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
so
But
he's
I
only
mean,
people.
yeah, but he can encourage you to go, rob a bank, for example. But that money you're gonna get, I mean, that money is decided by God.
MashaAllah.
Like everybody's money is decided by God. Everybody's provisions are coming from God. Whether you're a good person or a bad person,
Yeah,
Satan
brother,
can
and
try
it's
to make
that.
you happy. He can try to protect you, but it's all whatever Satan is doing. I mean, it's all in accordance with God's will, like the limited abilities that he has. But giving people money, he can't do it. Like even if you bribe someone, like Satan can't control that. Only God can.
Mashallah. And so we're
MashaAllah, brother.
seeing the distinction, like in the King of Chaos, between God's kingdom and Satan's kingdom. Uh, because Satan's kingdom is full of problems. Like people turning to drugs, like he's trying to, I guess it's his, like you had given an example, his path uh, for providing for his constituents, but they end up miserable or committing these crimes and stuff. Um, and then there's God's kingdom where people don't have problems, and then there's happiness and perfect peace and all of that.
Mm.
MashaAllah.
I want to add also, I think, like Satan, even though he saw the God, he knew the God, but he didn't understand properly the qualities of God. That's why he became Satan, that he didn't listen to God. He thought he can be a God because he didn't understood actually proper, the God qualities. So that's why actually, he is thinking what he is doing is right because, so yeah. So that's also another point. Yeah. So like he's thinking like the wicked people. Like when you so to make it to become a happy person, you need money, you need fame. He's thinking also same as a wicked person. He cannot think, oh, if the people listen to God, these people will make feel happiness. He doesn't understand those things. He
There's
he
um,
he, under, he understood the same way that the wicked people, oh, we need fame, we need money, then blah blah. So that's how he ran the world. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
yeah.
but
So
brother,
I
what
just
what
I
if
disagree with that. Yeah, I disagree with that because Satan
yeah, me
knows
too.
that
He
only
knows
yeah.
God.
Satan knows that
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
brother,
but
go ahead. You talk, please.
oh
No,
no,
no. I
but
mean, it's fine. Go ahead.
no, but my understanding was he did not understood the qualities of God. That's why he.
N no,
That's
no.
it's not.
No, I don't think so, brother. So the thing is that he actually knows God, right? He understands the qualities, etc. But the messenger, he says with the given, God gave him some powers, right? He could travel through the universe and like that type of thing. So, and with that given thing from God, he thought that he could be a God. Of course, not exactly like God, but he thought that he could do things by himself. And the most important sentence here is actually, and we have learned this, of course, with the messenger, and that is God is running everything. So that part maybe is something, and that came, of course, with the ego of the devil, that
Mm,
with the God-given powers, he thought that he could rule and be a God in his own way,
mm.
So,
No,
Yeah,
I.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But Nizam, one thing before you jump to conclusions, right? Just hear me out. So we know in the Quran, for example, what Satan said to God when this happened, right? He said he didn't say, "Oh, I'm gonna make them all happy and I'm gonna take them to paradise. You will not mind that, but I'll take them. I know you will agree with me or something. Because I'm so stupid. It didn't doesn't work like that. So he said, he said that I will lead them all astray except the worshippers who are devoted to you alone, and you will find that most of them are unappreciative, you know, that, and God said, I will, fine, he says, do that and I will fill hell with you all. So he knows he's going to hell, and he knows all these people are going to hell, and he knows he can't make them happy. But the thing is, he has to run his kingdom, right? He has to prove his godhood, and he has to have constituents, right? He can't have constituents that everybody in his kingdom is miserable and nobody has anything, and everybody, obviously, you know, if you just do that, then nobody wants to, everybody wants to go to God, right? But he has to do that, you know, because he wants to prove, only because he wants to prove that he can be a God, and he wants to have his constituents, right? Those are the only two reasons. It's not because he doesn't know and he's genuinely trying to help people, you know? Like, that's the conclusion you're going to get. No, he doesn't know. He just wants to make people happy. He just doesn't know how to. You know? That
Yeah,
he's
he's
doing
such
it
a
with his
good
own
guy.
donkey,
Uh, no, my point. I wanted to explain. Yeah, he knew the God, but he didn't understand. To be a God, you need some other qualities, some other things, some other power. But he thought the power God gave him, that was enough to be a God. So that's I think he was doing. This is my understanding, because to be a God, you need some other things to run.
Well, no, that's the thing. There's no such thing as, quote, to be a god. Like, you know what I mean? You know, you just said to be a
In
god.
his own way. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in his mind, like the messenger talks about it. He says, in his own way, in his mind, and only God knew what was in Satan's mind. So of course he knows already that he can't be a god like God, but it was more in his own way, and even that is not possible. And that's
Right.
the
That's what
basically the thing.
yeah, to
Yeah.
be a god isn't even possible. Even with these, all the whatever qualities, it's never going to happen. And that's, I think, the point, or one of the points of
Yeah.
the demonstration, you know.
Yeah, and only God is capable of doing something, right? And
Yeah,
one of the other details is that when the devil wanted to be a god and ruled with, he wanted to make these decisions and like in a way that he doesn't have to be just, like God is just, but the devil, he just wanted to decide to, for example, be in a certain way to one soul and different to another one.
So I guess now we're in the off-topic section. So was these the verses you were referring to, 566 and what was
Yeah,
it?
566 and 68.
Mm-hmm.
So based on these verses, someone is saying, so the Christian and Jewish are told to uphold their books and the Quran. So when the
What?
people will become Jewish, will become a submitter, so they have to read the
Wait a
Quran.
minute.
Also, they have to read also the Jewish at that time, like based on these two verses. When you
Can you read
become
the verses again?
when you are
In,
you are a Christian and you become a
in,
Muslim now, a submitter.
mm-hmm.
So you have to read only the Quran. So do you have to uphold that the Torah or Bible based on this verse?
No.
When
Shouldn't.
when
You shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. Like, it's the same as we are. Like, for example, I was a Sunni before, and now I became submitter, God willing, and then now I need to leave everything behind and then
Mm-hmm.
follow only the Quran. But
Mm-hmm.
please don't forget that the Messenger of the Covenant, he was also reading verses from the Bible, right? So you can reference to those verses to explain something, but eventually the Quran is the final testament, and like we need to follow the Quran, of course. But when you have, for example, a verse in the Bible which is like exactly the same as God talks about the topic also in the
Mm-hmm.
Quran, so you can reference to it. It doesn't mean you don't
Mm-hmm.
you cannot read it, because the messenger did that a lot to
Mm-hmm.
show, like it's from the same source. And we also know from the video that the video where he explains that the Bible is the word of God, right? So it's
In defense of the Bible.
90, sorry?
In defense of the Bible, the video.
Yeah, independent. Yeah, that one, for example. So, but we are responsible for the Quran, of course. So this means that, let's say you don't read the Bible at all, right? You can't. We have the Quran. It's but
Yeah.
yeah, we have this example of the messenger.
Yeah, brother. So the what you're saying about the upholding the what's in their book, right? So,
Yes.
mashallah, as I think Brother Jafar already said, as the messenger says, 90% of it is the truth, and that's but the Quran supersedes it. You know, supersedes means that if there's anything different in the other books, you know, this takes precedence over it. So what you're left with is just the Quran, basically. You know, everything that you're supposed to uphold, like in the God, basically, God is telling these people that when it says, you know, uphold what is in the Torah and the Gospel, doesn't mean that they become rabbis and priests. You know, it means that, you know, in your book, it also says to be righteous. In your book, it also says to worship God alone, to do the practices. Given that the practices have been removed, you know, but in the original scripture, I mean, obviously, God gave them the same commandments as what is in the Quran because they were all submitters. So God is saying, this is the truth. The Quran is the truth. The Quran clears the disputes. They must believe in the Quran and uphold what is in the Quran and in those books, meaning the truth, not the falsehood, right? So that doesn't mean that anything that's abrogated that they have to follow. Obviously not, you know. What is abrogated, and they just have to follow what is in the Quran. But in the previous scriptures, God is telling them exact same thing. You know, like for example, the story of Moses that we're reading today. It's here in the Quran, but it's also in the Bible. You can read from it, and God can say, "Well, look at the story of Bible in the Torah. You know, also look at it here. You know, follow it. You know, uphold it. You know."
Yeah, mashallah, brother. Yeah, I was also almost the same alignment, but I raised the question because, like, I want to check myself. This I was thinking right or not, because people they brought up so many ideas nowadays.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
why
and
good not to
That's
hang
I
around
think
those people.
innovative. But man, it's like if you're following the Quran, you're already following the truth in the previous scriptures,
Yeah,
and that's all that
yeah.
matters. But like if you
MashaAllah,
don't
brother.
uphold the previous
hmm
scriptures,
hmm
you start. Satan is so clever. I mean, he's like it's obvious for us as submitters because we know better. But there's
Satan is not clever, brother.
uh,
Yeah, and I
well,
think that's the
He's
important
stupid.
thing. Yeah, and that exactly. And then the other thing is like when you hang around, continue to hang around such people, you know, such kind of ideas, you'll continue to hear such kind of ideas, you know, and you'll continue to question yourself, you know. And that was my point earlier because you know you don't want to be in that situation. You know, like we're already over it. Like,
Mhm.
why do I want to be with these people who continue to drag me back? Like being around hypocrites, right? I
Mhm.
mean, Satan just like how the Messenger of the Covenant he explains it. You know, in one of his videos too, is like, you know, if you just have, you know, if you're just a little bit doubtful, right?
Mhm.
He says you're in the lowest ranks.
Mhm.
You want to be in the lowest ranks, you know. You hang around with these people. I mean, you don't have a doubt. You have like a whole bunch of doubts, right? Because they're all full of doubts, and they'll shower you with those doubts. You know, they'll throw them left and right. You know, when you're in their company, right? And that's the biggest reason why God says not to befriend these people. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah, mashallah.
if
And I
you
think, brother, there is
yeah.
this confusing thing maybe in the sentence where you say like a Jewish submitter or a Christian submitter. So then immediately they have this idea, okay, a Christian submitter is someone who upholds the Bible. He still follows the things with are in the Bible, but he also accepts the Quran. So for example, Jews, they still can, do their prayers on their own way, But that is like even with the some people who call them submitters, they think in this manner. They think this is what the messenger have thought them or said. That you can be a Jew and then submitter and then still do the Shabbat or like the other
hmm
things.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah,
yeah,
no, brother. Yeah, so
That's
many
maybe
people
a
yeah.
are.
co-
fall into
Yeah.
those
Also,
ones. Yeah. So,
Yes, that's I think
Mashallah,
the part where the missed thing is the information.
yeah.
yeah.
Also, I
So,
think like also I want to say, like if, and I'm not saying like we shouldn't ask questions or discourage anyone from asking genuine question. Like if you really have a question, like you really don't understand it, this issue, like for example, I'm just saying, if because you do understand this, right? Like you said you understand it, but you asking because these other people are saying it. In my opinion, like I think it's not a good idea because now you're spreading it basically, right? If you don't know and you genuinely want the answer, that's one thing, right? But let's say now someone has this doubt and you know it's wrong, and you want to talk about it, let's say, just for your own comfort or just to be sure, I guess that makes sense also, right? But then there's also this idea that, now you bring it out to other people, it's like someone had COVID or something and they went somewhere and people were infected and you got COVID, now you came back with your COVID and now you're spreading it to other people,
Oh,
no, brother.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no.
I just don't
I
understand.
understood your point, brother. No, because
Yeah.
God knows my intention, But you are
No, I'm
thinking
not saying.
is okay,
No, no, I'm
but
not
my
saying your
thinking
intention.
was different. Like say
No, no, I'm
because
not saying it's your intention. I didn't say that's your
No, he
intention.
didn't
I
say
said,
that. Yeah, it's
I
not about
said,
your. We
no,
know
no, no.
your
I no,
intentions
no.
are good, brother.
no, no,
No,
I
brother,
didn't.
no, I am not arguing. Just I
No,
know
what
that
is my,
what's your point,
no,
but my
no,
intention is like say when I was going through and when we are doing the Quran study, so we are not doubting like just I know that. So when you read this one, then I say, oh, I am aligned with this. I am not arguing. Oh no, why this one? So
right.
I want to make sure that from our Quran study because Satan already there. Maybe some people will get the same things when they listen this Quran study, so they'll also clear their doubt. It will be a good benefit for them, other people
So
also.
then just
That's that.
you can just say, as a
After,
reminder for people, that say God says this, and I just want to clarify that there's people out there that are saying these things, and in fact it's like this, so
Mm,
that way, like, you're not
mm,
introducing it as another thing that trying to spread, like they're trying to spread these things, right? Let's say, so they're trying to spread these doubts, right?
Yes, no, that's
So
why I'm asking you. Some guys,
yeah,
someone
yeah.
is, yeah, ask this question. So when
Hmm.
if you do the Quran stuff, when we just discuss, so it will help, for also, so now we have different opinion, to for this
Hmm.
issue, then we are clear, more clear. If there is someone
Hmm.
want to convey some way, so now
No, I
we,
got your
so that's
perspective.
my
I
understanding. That's why
understand
I
your
bring
point.
some point,
No, I
not
know, of
only for
course.
me, for other people too. That's my.
Of course, I understood your intention. I understood, but I'm just saying that's a side effect,
Mm.
yeah, I wanted
Yeah.
to say too. When I said Satan was clever, like y'all know what I'm talking about. Like he's cunning and he's sneaky and he's evil.
Hmm.
We know he's not smart, so I just wanted to
Yeah. Yeah,
not
yeah,
for
of course.
not
Yeah,
clever.
I mean, he's not doing it out of innocence, right?
Yeah, no, clever. I mean, clever.
Yeah.
When I've used clever, usually when
Clever
it's
and
like
and
things,
and no one more devious than the devil himself, of course.
right,
Satan, he's the.
like you're malicious, like you're scheming. You're
Hmm.
There's even a
Yeah.
verse,
Deceptive,
says that he
deceptive.
yeah,
Hmm.
he is not appreciative of his Lord
Hmm.
Mm.
in Quran.
And manipulate and deceive. Those are the things.
So I will be an example too, because people can say, oh, this brother was with some people, and they so and they can learn, So when you are with the other people and try to
Hmm.
bring some new ideas,
Hmm.
like contradict with the Quran, so and they can see and they can be aware from our conversation.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I think AZBZ has a comment. which is not like fully clear, but I think she's talking about befriending and not befriending certain people, like disbelievers. Um, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but I think she's asking like if you can befriend. Um, like I
Is it
think
not the
she
same
understands it in
topic
a way.
as
I don't
last
think
week?
it's a question. I don't think it's a question. She just made a comment, right?
Maybe. Mhm.
Yeah, God says there is no problem to befriend them
You also have to
if they're not fighting you and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
take.
there's already a verse about that part as well.
I mean, we're not supposed to befriend enemies of God because we also have to think about the verse from I think Surah 30. Something that says, "Indeed, the disbeliever is an enemy of his Lord." So I think we need to. My understanding is, don't. I mean, if you're going out hanging out with these people over submitters, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
So in the
but
in the footnote it says like
we
when they are
can't.
not fighting you, there is still chance for them to,
Right.
accept the message. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep,
actually a clue when they are not fighting against you, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a
but
general rule. Like that's not the
it
yeah,
could
only
vary.
rule, right?
It could
Yeah.
vary,
I
right,
yes,
mean,
brother? Because what
yeah.
if they're not doing it to you, but they're doing it to someone like in another way? You know, like they're not
And
doing it directly
disbelievers,
to
yeah,
you,
they could be
but
stealing
they,
money from the
yeah,
cash register. You're gonna go
Mhm.
befriend this person and hang out with them or be nice to them when they're. I mean, you have to apply disbelievers an enemy of their Lord. I mean, this is in the Quran. We're not supposed to be hospitable towards such people. Understand it as like if we're around such people, we they have an opportunity to get the message and turn from their ways. But as far as I guess it's each
Mhm.
situation is different. But I think we've talked about this before in the
We have
comments.
talked about this at length. We've
That's
talked about
fine.
this. I think that's the most talked about subject in our Quran studies.
Right.
Um, After circumcision, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so
also like
yeah,
also.
go ahead, brother.
Okay, so also like if you keep like for instance like if you keep giving them the message, you know, and there's verses in Quran and
Hmm.
there's verses in Quran like if you keep giving them the message and they keep disbelieving, like
Hmm.
and they just keep disbelieving, they have no hope, you know, and
Yeah,
such people you must like separate from them, you know. It's not like
yeah.
you keep giving them the message and they're just not they keep ignoring you like and then you still could be all friends and go out with
Hmm.
them. I know you
Yeah.
must separate yourself from them, run away from them.
Right. And also, God said, for example, do not befriend the hypocrites, right? Uh, and do not befriend people who are absorbed in the worldly life. So you can be nice to anybody, like your coworker. I mean, we can say that again, I guess. You can be nice to people. You know, God says, be equitable to people. We just talked about in the study on Tuesday, right? Be equitable to people, who are. God willing, we can talk about the verses, which verses also, but I just want to explain first that um, when you're a submitter, right, you will come across all types of people, whether they're whatever religion they are from, right? Some of them will be atheists, some of them will be Christians, Jews, whatever, right? We're supposed to treat all of them nicely because they are potential believers. They could be better than you and me, right? So as long as you have hope for them and you're the best judge of whether this person has hope or not, as long as you have hope for them, as long as these people have either they're either neutral or they haven't made a position against submission where there's no hope for them, you can befriend these people and be equitable towards them, right? But befriending people, for example, who are mocking and ridiculing your religion, obviously, shows you that the person is in a state of like almost hopelessness to the point that he has gone to the point where he's mocking and ridiculing, or he's attacking and physically fighting. We know there is no physical fighting; it's all mental now, right? And but people can still mock and ridicule, but people can also disbelieve and say things derogatory about God. Like someone, let's say, I give the message to someone, and I exhaust all my efforts to try and tell this person that, let's say the Quran is from God and this is the miracle, and they say, no, this is just a bunch of nonsense. I don't believe it. Or they can say it politely, it doesn't matter, right? But at some point, it becomes clear to me that, I have no hope for this person. No matter what I say, his mind is made up. He's not going to accept it. And he's just being nice to me and everything, right? At that point, it doesn't matter. He's not fighting with me. But I know that this person is destined for hell because he's never going to believe the message I have. That I have this judgment in my head that, and the messenger says, like, you're the person who will decide based on the circumstances, based on what you know of this person, you can tell. So at that point, you know of this person. Now that person, maybe that person wants something from you. That person wants to use you for money, for whatever, and he wants to be around you, even though he hates you for what you stand for, but he wants to be around you and he's pretending to be kind and nice to you. Maybe it's your parent, who wants to be taken care of. Maybe it's your children because they want your money. It could be anybody, right? It could be a person at your work because he wants to get a promotion, or someone at your work who wants you to work for him as a slave. So it could be many reasons, right? But the person has turned against God, and no matter what you do, you don't have any hope that this person will become a submitter. Now, is there hope for every? You can say there's hope for everybody, right? In other words, like anybody can be guided. We're not talking about that. We're talking about your understanding of this person. Like someone could be. You have hope for. Like I'll have hope for someone. Let's say if I haven't explained to them submission very well, right? If I haven't given them enough time to think about it, right? But at some point, I've exhausted all these means. I've given them time, I've given them the message, I've debated with them, I've answered their every question, their every argument, and they still insist, right? At some point, you're going to be like, yeah, it's like talking to a wall, there's no use, right? God says, do not befriend people who are hopelessly stuck in disbelief. That's the essence, right? If someone is hopelessly stuck in disbelief, then you don't befriend them, right? Then you run away from them because they're gonna drag you into hell with you. And the enemies of God, there's nothing good that's gonna come out of it ever, right? You're following God by running away from them, right? But other than that, you can be nice to. You can be the nicest person on earth with everybody. That's good, actually.
Yes, brother, mashallah, very good explanation.
Good.
MashaAllah, brother.
Okay.
Yeah, it reminds me of this person, like somebody I work with. They got a stroke, not too long after they got the message. I think I sent them videos over the course of weeks, and a couple months went by. I mean, they're kind of old and stuff. I think in their 60s, but I have to work with them out of necessity. But this is someone. Just thinking about it now, like uh, you work with them and help them with work. But I mean, outside of that, I mean, we're not supposed to treat. Uh, I mean, we're not supposed to like be like their friend or their buddy or any of that. Once you lose hope for them. Yeah. Because I mean, these are situations that I think all of us might. I don't know. I've talked to a lot of people, I guess, about submission. I'm sure we all have, but I think it's a good. Sometimes when this comes up, it's good to even myself now, re-examine ourselves. Like, how are we treating this person? After they disregarded the message, even talking to them again after a disaster that God did save them from. Because I thought this person that was the end. Because a family member had called me several months ago when they were flown to the hospital by helicopter. Um, but yes, I mean this is a good reminder. I think
Hmm.
for
You
even
thought like they were
myself.
dying or something?
Yeah, I mean, I knew so basically they had the heart. They're in very very bad shape. I forget. They went into all kind of. They had a stroke, a pretty bad stroke, but they had it for a week. Like went out.
He had a stroke, right?
Yeah, business. Yeah.
Multiple. Making it sound like it's multiple people.
Oh no! Just this one individual. But other people, like I've talked about submission, or they don't take a stand against it, or like even the
Mhm.
if you remember,
So what was his reaction when you gave him the message?
he just it's kind of like you just told me, brother. Now that hearing you say that, it's like he's done. He fits a lot of those characteristics. He'll be nice, because
Hmm.
I'm very helpful with work, and I'm just not doing it so much for him, but just for the team as a whole. Not just like the division we're in.
Hmm.
Because if his performance isn't good, everybody kind of. But yeah, his reaction was just like, oh yeah, I'll read that. Thank you so much, and then or thank you. But the more I know him pretty well now, working him for a year and a half, 2 years, and it's kind of like you said, they're just he never even watched it, and I sent it to him multiple times. I tried different approaches. I sent him the PDF. I talked to him, sent him the website, sent him videos. Tried different approaches. I sent him the King of Chaos. Each time he said he would watch it, but I think he just never brings himself to it. I mean, he's very nice, and I say that, but I mean he does use like vulgarity, which I guess is somewhat common with people nowadays. But yeah, I mean, but he's kind and stuff. But I think when I talked to him about that, I would quit talking to him about it because
Hmm.
I've come to the conclusion like I'm just wasting my breath because I did
Hmm.
try different ways, different methods, and over the course of months and stuff, and not being pushy either, just like dropping little things and being very uh, simple about it. Um,
Hmm.
but nothing has come from it, and it's kind of like one of those things where I think he's hopelessly stuck, and
Hmm.
uh, and
Yeah, and
so
that's why then he got the stroke. You're saying because.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
yeah, I talked to him after, and then he said his life has changed and stuff. Like, oh man, like I'm different now, and I'm like, really? Well, I was thinking this. I was like, really? Well, if you really were serious, like you would. So I sent him more stuff, and I says, look about like, and I talked to him on the phone too, because we make a call talking about the things that happened this week with work and stuff, and then I'll transition, especially after the stroke. I was like, well, what do you like? What do you think is
Hmm.
death and like I'll talk to him about our purpose and stuff, and then he just I guess man, none of these dude, he's not even afraid.
Hmm.
Like that's what's it's so scary.
Hmm.
Like he's like so
Yeah.
like comfortable with just like being close to death. I mean, even now and before, and then
Hmm.
like what are you doing, man? like
Hmm.
it's so that's why I'm like trying to tell him like man, like because if I was him, I would want somebody to do that for me. That's why like I feel like, but at some point, like if I didn't know, like if I was in a situation before the
Hmm.
stroke or something, like, I want somebody to please tell me, you
Hmm.
know. But looking some, but like it's kind of at the point now,
Hmm.
where I don't think, I mean, I don't really,
Yeah.
I'm not
Hmm.
completely sure, but yeah, I mean, like I feel like too, brother. I'm glad we talked about this because I feel like maybe I'm too helpful to him, like with work. I don't know, like I think I should just keep him more cordial, because I'm also,
Hmm.
I'm gonna try to, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know about your relationship with him. Like, how? What do you mean? Like, do you guys go out together? I mean, have
No, no,
dinner?
I don't. To be honest, I don't really like the
Yeah.
personality too much because he curses a lot. But I'm very helpful and kind when it comes to work-related stuff. Like I'll send him on.
But I mean, yeah, but I mean, in your situation, for example, like, sorry to cut you off, but in your situation, like, you are forced to work with him, right? Like, you, as, um, you have to be in the same car sometimes. You have to be at the same site, communicate with each other. So to that degree, I mean, obviously, you're not doing
That's the extent of
anything.
a relationship, or
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's what God says, right? I mean, you're only communicating with him because you're forced by your situation or circumstance to just treat him as a coworker, you know.
or most of
Um,
it.
yeah, Yeah, I mean, in my case, like, yeah, I don't know if that's the right approach or not, but like, I stopped at some point. Like, I stopped, which is, I'm not saying that's the best thing, but like, I just stopped giving the message. I think at some point to people around me, like people I have to work with, like my acquaintances at work, or things like that, because I feel that obviously, like when I get involved in giving them the message and I start explaining things to them, and then I see no result, that sort of complicates that whole relationship even, But I mean, I'm not saying that's the right way to do it, but I mean, it's just like a kind of like a side effect again, of this. Like, yeah, I'm just so concerned, because then I have to think about like the situation you're talking about, right? I have to think about those things, and I don't necessarily want to deal with that all the time, So it just, but I mean,
Yeah, I
that
mean, it
shouldn't
happened
stop
with my
people.
brother too. Like it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Hmm.
it is like I do. I mean, I do see these people in person and stuff, and then so I guess it's different because you
Hmm.
feel like you have to be able to work,
Hmm.
from around the world remotely and stuff. So the interaction it does, it is like people that I've never met in person or visually,
Hmm.
like walking up.
Hmm.
It's a little more
Hmm.
like those
Hmm.
people actually don't. I probably because I guess it's situation dependent, um, but
Yeah, I'm even trying to remember who anyone, if anyone that I gave the message to at my work, like pretty much nobody. Like I look for people, I guess, that maybe welcome to the message. Like if I see that, like I try to feel like if they are even like seeking God in some way. But usually I don't find people are looking for God, But you may have few things where you may say something about God, but like for me, it never gets to the point where I feel like eager enough to share the message, you know.
Oh, but you need to make your stand. Like you need to.
No, if
You
you're saying
remember
in that
the.
sense that I make the stand, but usually people are not like that here. People are very,
yeah,
careful
I
right.
know.
You
and
have to be
what
fair.
is
Like
it?
people out here, like this one guy he was cursing a lot, man. And I think I talked about this. This was like a year ago. But he worked in instrumentation and electrical, and he was cursing a lot. Then he starts talking about Jesus, and then like I was like, man, I was like, I think I was helping. It was very cold, and yeah, it was late at night, and then I felt like I don't know, I couldn't let him get away with cursing and like saying these things. So
Mm-hmm.
I was very like kind of I'm always chill about it, and then he starts asking questions, and then but yeah, people out here I guess are different, like I
Mm-hmm.
guess with some of these people too, like after a stroke, I think he was kind of seeking or before,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, because I don't just jump in like conversations like, hey man, you got like Jehovah's Witness,
No,
like no
no, but
way,
like
like
really,
no,
no, but you remember, like
I'm
really,
very, yeah, it's very
you
calculated. Yeah.
remember Rafael and I were laughing like when we were moving, and this one guy, you remember you were telling him about the apostle, and like he's just helping him with the move like you were
Oh yeah,
talking about.
yeah. No, that. Oh yeah, because I think he saw. He asked about our streams and stuff or something, and he was like, "Yo, streamers
Yeah.
are
Oh yeah. Yeah.
out on
Yeah.
TV," and then he's like, "Oh, cool. What's that about? Like, what religion?" And we start talking, and then one thing, it's kind of like one of those things that one thing leads to another, and then but then like yeah,
Right.
I did get a little carried away with Apophis, but like
Mashallah. It was in a good way though. Like,
Yeah. No, I
mashallah.
said it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Like it's a good
yeah,
Yeah.
quality.
it was good
It's
because I could
it's
tell it
alhamdulillah.
actually started to make him a little nervous, which is usually kind of a good sign because it's like, oh man, this might be true. Like he was like, man, like I could kind of tell, like
Mm.
he was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, like this because it started making sense to him. Like when I was telling him a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, like there's a messenger and the math
Mm-hmm.
proof in the same city and then date, and then he kind of like paused, and then he was like,
Yeah.
I guess but
But what was the story with the other guy?
oh, the one with the stroke or that
No, no, the other mover guy that you were
oh
telling
yes.
him about submission to.
So yeah, I could tell like it was kind of like I knew it wasn't going to produce anything. He was cool and respectful of like what I believed in, but he was like very he's just like the Christians I grew up around. Like you can do these
Yeah.
things, repent and stuff to Jesus, and but like you can see, man, I can see like he's struggling, like he's not happy. He's
Right. Right.
he's I mean he's very like talented at what he's doing, but he's complaining about like this thing, like cursing and stuff. I'm like, man, he's very miserable, like in a way. And then but I just felt like I don't know. I just feel like if I was him, for some like if I met me or another person, I want to be told because like
Right.
if I never get it on the day of judgment, I'm like, oh man, like dude, I wish I would have. But God, God will guide. Like if these people are meant to believe,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
But the thing is that you like say I hope we're not boring other people out with our
yeah,
conversation, but I was just gonna say like like for me and for you, like we would want that, right? But the question is like, do these people even want
they
that?
won't.
Like do they?
I don't
Yeah.
think they.
Yeah.
I want to remind something. So the messenger, talks also about this topic, and there are basically two things which is very important. First of all, he gives this example that, when you are in a discussion with someone and he has these questions or he says things, and the moment that he leaves there, he leaves, and then you remember actually the correct verse numbers, the things that you wanted to say him. So this means basically that that person didn't deserve to hear all these answers from you because it's God who is guiding, right? That is basically the one thing. The other thing is also the messenger says this is that you are doing it actually for your own soul because our job is of course not to convince those people, but when we interact with them, right, and talk about these things, actually it is for our souls, like we are doing it for ourselves to grow it because you have then a moment where you do something what God asks you to do, right? Because we need to tell them, we need to give them the message, of course, and it's actually for our own souls, basically. And God decides if that person deserves to be convinced or not.
Yeah. So Brother Jafar, like I'll give you an example, right? So for example, like typically, now I for example, don't interact with a lot of people because of being remote and everything. But like previously, when you'd have to work on site, you interact with all these people, right? But people are just normally not as chatty about God, normal naturally, or if they are like it doesn't really get into like any serious discussion, right? It's never comes to a point where like I have to make a stand, in other words, right? But like for example, I did remember like this one time where this happened, where we were asked to join these people at this company I used to work with, and they asked us to come with them for like three days, at a resort or something. And so like we were kind of put in a position where we had to live in the same resort for a few days. Everybody had different rooms, but like those two of those people were like missionaries. Like they used to, like one guy was the head of marketing and the other one was doing some web stuff, and so they were both missionaries. I think they were from the same church. And so like the guy, like he was at a position where like where it would affect my job, like if I opened up to him, right? But the thing was that uh, he decided. I mean, he knew I was a submitter, and he decided to come with his friend and give me the Bible and try to invite me, and so I started telling him about the miracle and stuff, and he's like, "No, this is not right." And like they were evangelical Christians, typical evangelical Christians, They were trying to tell me that I have to take Jesus Christ as my Lord and this and that, And I was like, no. Like I told them, I shared with them, the verses from Appendix 22, and I debated with them, and they had no answers, and they were very adamant about their views, and their only answer was like, no, this is not in our Bible. Like I'm like, no, it's in the same Bible. Look up these verses, And the guy was like, I mean, they're in it for like years, you know. They were going around the world, but you know, after that thing happened, like, you know, I exhaustively gave them a lot of information, and they decided not to take heed. So then, you know, obviously after that, you know, the relationship obviously, you know, turned sour, and you know, we never really talked after that, you know. So, but
So is that a bad thing or?
Mashallah,
Yeah.
that's
no, it's
good.
not a
That's
bad
good
thing.
that you gave him
No,
the
it's not a
message,
bad
but
thing.
I think
Yeah,
I
but
think it's
I'm
an
just saying
individual because
that's what happens, you
yeah,
One moment. Yeah, sir.
know. Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
of
my
Yeah,
course.
okay.
experience too is
I'm
it's
not
never
saying it's
good.
a bad thing, but you said no, we are supposed to take a stand. So I'm saying, yeah, we do make a stand. And when he came and he started telling you like Jesus is God, the messenger says, you tell them no, that this is
right.
wrong. You know, like I'm not cool with it,
Yeah.
and that's what you do. That's when you have the duty that you must tell them, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You see, that's the situation I've been in. Like probably 60% of the time, and then the other 40%, like people are just kind of seeking, or eventually the topic comes up. Because I had that saying, like he wasn't over me, but like I had that. I think I told you about. This was like I was doing some training and stuff and working with this guy, and then he was I think or he wasn't a Pentecostal, but yeah, I had a pretty good debate with him, and it was the same thing as you, brother. Like the guy, he didn't really have any answers, but I could tell he was like starting to get. He was a very calm and cool guy, but like he was starting to get like a little like questions like, oh, do you think you're gonna get into heaven just by works, like alone and stuff? And I'm like
Mm-hmm.
telling him, I'm explaining in the Bible. I says, look, I said, pause. I was because I know a lot about that area, and I felt like I could, but you know, it kind of got to the point where it's like you said, and like brother Joshua brought up, you know, like you make your stand, you're just doing it for yourself at this point and sticking up for the truth. And you know, whether this person decides to, you know, want to look into it or not. And I even texted him like the link to submission WS, and then sent him
Mm-hmm.
like a PDF just to read, you know, just so
Mm-hmm.
he can't, or not that he can't go back and say I didn't, you know, but like
Mm-hmm.
just for him, like that, the ball's in his court now, basically. And then, like after that, I was done, and like luckily for me, like this guy, he wasn't like bitter or anything, but it kind of did maybe make things weird. But like, I guess if he knows, like, look, we can still work. But I think, yeah, I think those people that were those two people in your situation were just being unjust and not professional.
Is
Uh,
there also
Mm-hmm.
something where you guys talk to someone and then they accepted the message?
In real life, no.
no, there was one guy, Suleman, you remember before I came to California, there was that guy I
Mm-hmm.
think lived near me. He was in the military, and then he
Mm-hmm.
was so interested. He was coming up,
Mm-hmm.
like coming to visit and stuff. We'd have coffee, and we were watching. He was even watching
Mm-hmm.
Messenger, but I think it didn't last. You know, I think he was just like I
Mm-hmm.
found out. You know, usually it's kind of like you said, like they want something from you, or
Mm-hmm.
they're doing it like because they see like, oh, all these nice things are happening, you know, to this
Mm-hmm.
person after they accept the mission. Like I want that, but they don't want it for the right reasons. I think they just want the rewards or whatever they perceive it as. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he ended up just wanting stuff from me. But it was yeah. But no, to answer the brother Jaffer's question, no.
So that's interesting because I was thinking that, Brother Jaffer asked that question because, like, from Brother Suleiman, like, his experience, and Brother John, like, they have told me that they have given the message. I have given the message to, like, two people when I was working in Texas, and it's the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't take heed at all. They
Yeah.
just, like if they didn't hear anything.
Yeah. I had one friend that I gave the message to, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I thought for like 3 years or so that he was a submitter. You know, he was somebody that you know, I gave him the message like when I was 19. I gave him the not I gave him the message later, but you know, I met him when I was 19 years old. You know, like I used to go to flight school. Like we were both taking flying lessons, so I knew him for like a couple of years, and then one day he reached out to me like I mean, he was the most wicked person, you know, like he was a con artist and he would do all kinds of bad things, you know. And somehow we were friends before I was a submitter. And then when I became a submitter, like I completely stopped talking to him because I knew how bad he was. But at some point, like, you know, he reached out to me and he was in trouble. Like he was stuck in Malaysia and he asked me if I knew anyone in Malaysia, and I just happened to know a submitter family, you know. So he was stranded, and you know he had no money or anything, and so like I uh, I reached out to those people and I connected him with them, and I mean I had tried giving him the message before, but then I told those people to talk to him about submission, and they gave him the message, and you know he was like, oh yeah, I'm a submitter, and my wife is a submitter too now, and we have a son now. I mean, then they had a son. He grew up now, but I was thinking like they're all submitters, you know. And then um, then it turned out a few years later that he was just using them for money and me for money because he was not a submitter. Like he was drinking and everything. He tried to con me after that, and at that time I found out that he was drinking also and stuff like that because his other partner ended up telling me. And then I asked him, he confirmed, and he says, "Oh, but you know how many people I feed after my Friday prayer, and like, you know, like you're still drinking. Like, what does
How
that
many
mean?"
What does it
does it mean?
So then he can feed four people to drink one glass.
He got stuck in Malaysia after you gave him the message too.
Yeah, he was forced to live there for a few years, you know, and even the people there that were in Malaysia, like they were kind of halfway submitters, you know, but at least he got the message and the miracle, and he, you know, after 3 years, that he still couldn't pronounce the name of Dr. Khalifa, you know, he'd call him Rashid Khalifa. I was like, what kind of submitter? Yeah, but he was a con artist, you know, so he tried to. That was his the last con, I guess, when I was knowing him, you know, at the time.
Mhm.
But his wife knew that he was conning people. His wife was telling people, but then people wouldn't believe his wife because they thought that she just doesn't like him, you know. And
Mhm.
yeah, and it was weird. But anyways, yeah, but it's just you know it's you know that's why the messenger says, you know, it's very hard for like your whole family to believe, you know, and your
Mhm.
friends and stuff. It's not like, you know, for everybody, you know, just give them the message and they're gonna accept it, you know. It's not like that. I mean, you look at the message and like you're so excited because, you know, God wants you to recognize it, you know, that, you know, maybe you deserve to recognize it. But when you show it to other people, I mean, there's no reaction from
Yeah.
because
You
God doesn't
expect the
want you to
same,
recognize
right?
it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
was one of the things that I
Yeah.
experienced. Like I was in a shock. I thought everyone who would hear this, who would see
Mm.
this, they are going to be extremely excited and everyone is going to accept it because this is so amazing and so unbelievable, right? It's a huge
Yeah.
miracle. Um, that's what you think, like seeing
Yeah.
you seeing God with your own eyes, like you see,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what you expect, but it doesn't happen, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, but how? Like, what prevents them from believing in, it's like you tell them 1 + 1 is 2, and they say, no, no, we don't believe in that. And then you try to give all these explanations and proofs that 1 + 1 is 1, but then because for us it's very simple, right? Like we understand exactly, like mostly I think
Mm-hmm.
what the miracle is.
Yeah.
We get the point, and then
Mm-hmm.
them not getting the point, which is very clear. It was very shocking in the beginning, and I had actually some difficulties with that. But then we talked about it also in the Quran studies, and then you know, and then we understood, at least I understood, it's basically something that you need to deserve, and God knows exactly who deserve it. So when
Mm-hmm.
someone doesn't believe anymore, I think I know exactly, okay, this person doesn't deserve it probably,
Mm-hmm.
and his soul is not meant for believing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it was shocking in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think what does work, with submission, like how I how I try to do it, is I put the message out there, for like on the internet, let's say, if someone deserves to be guided, like, God will allow them to see it, like if it's the Quran or a video or something like that, like it's out there, put it out there, put the Quran in libraries, for example, put it on websites, stores, whatever, places where people can find the truth and easily
That's how
access
my
the
dad
message.
found it.
Yeah.
Mashallah,
That's,
brother.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I feel like that's the most effective way. Everyone has a phone, or a
Hmm.
computer. I feel like that's so like um affect like everyone has like mostly everyone has a phone, especially here in the United States. Like kids, that
Even in
back in the
other
day.
countries, people have phones.
Yeah, yeah, but here, yeah, yeah, that's true, Michelle. But here, like
No,
like
even kids
oh
have
yeah,
phones in every country now, pretty much.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
much exactly. But
Yeah.
uh, yeah, most people are unappreciative, because it's like even when proofs come to them, they don't take heed, just from
Hmm.
just all the random people we've talked to, they're not interested in this. They're more
Yeah.
really, more totally interested in the worldly life and just idols, money, their
Hmm.
family, kids, and all. That's really, even if something like makes sense to them, even if it starts to click, they can't be bothered by it. They'd rather, they
Hmm.
prefer, like, because they don't believe in the hereafter. They don't, you know, even if they were told about the hereafter, they don't want to learn about it to get their belief or something. Even if that was the case, like if they didn't have the Quran. But um, yeah, okay.
All right. So, are there any comments or questions from anyone before we sign off? So, thank you all for joining the study. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
God
God
bless you
bless
all.
you all.
Salam.
Thank you so
God bless
much,
you
brother and
all.
sister.
Assalamu
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.